And Brett was just like my little brother. I know he looks older because he went gray earlier, but
he's got that badass salt and pepper distinguished.
Yeah. Some girl asked him the other day, said, "How did you get your hair that color?" He goes, "God did it."
And I'm God.
And I'm God. Yeah. He'd been to a lot of 12-step meetings to figure out he wasn't God. I don't know if he got the message yet. And so one day we just went, all right, we're just going to write together. That'll avoid the competition. Let's just write together. And literally we have written every song together for over 30 years. And then we did this reality show called Barely Famous.
I remember.
Yeah. So it was, and we were at the height of like active alcoholism, let's say. And right around that time, we got our first hit we had written for someone else. We wrote a song for Faith Hill called The Lucky One. And it went to number 5 on the chart. And we got our first check in the mail from that. And you're talking about busting ass on the road for 200 days a year for like 10 years. And we got that check. I'm like, dude, we're songwriters. So we got sober. We started writing. And then Tim McGraw we always say we're the Cato Kalin of the Tim McGraw family. He just liked
how many songs
songs
did he do? Like how many songs of those were hits?
So we've had about 4 hits for him, but like 30 plus cuts on Tim McGraw records over the years.
Welcome to the Jackin' Around Show, available on your favorite audio platforms and in video on YouTube. Visit JackinAroundShow.com for the most up-to-date show information, including links to access the show's catalog of episodes. I'm your host, Jack Ingram. The Jackin' Around Show is presented by Lone Star Dry Goods, a curated collection of handcrafted quality goods with a truly unique Americana vibe. Visit Lone Star Dry Goods in person, right here at the world headquarters in historic downtown Abilene, Texas, just west of Fort Worth in Willow Park. Or online at LoneStarDryGoods.com.
I think the guy who lived here before me was like a handy stoner. Like everything that was in the
Some
house.
real creative stuff that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. Didn't make sense. It was kind of halfway done.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. The non-finisher.
I mean, everywhere.
That's kind of cool. You had some projects started for you. You could finish off if you wanted to.
I came in and immediately was like, that has to go. There was a spiral wooden.
Oh, that doesn't go good with alcohol, by the way.
Hippie, that's what I mean. I was like, that's not going to fly.
We go off with a fire pole. This thing where you just slide right down it.
All right, everybody. We're here with Brad Warren. What's up, buddy?
What's up, brother?
Good to see you, friend.
The monster's hands on you. I mean, that's a gorilla grip right there.
That's right. You know what they say.
Big hat?
If I could be president.
You do that overhand shake. Where you pull somebody into you a little bit.
So, man, we met in 97?
Yeah, that would be it.
At that Robert.
What was that guy's name? You know, that book that he made that night, I wound up seeing it 20 years later. That guy made a book. And all of us that were playing at that round that night wound up in his book.
You're kidding me.
What was his name?
Robert somebody.
Yeah. He was a photographer, kind of a famous guy.
Oh, wow.
But it was me and you and Brett and one of the guys in Hootie and the Blowfish.
Mark.
That wasn't Darius. Yeah, Mark. Yeah.
Tom Littlefield was there. Did you ever know Tom?
I only remember you and the guy from I was really drunk.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
I remember Littlefield because that was right when Hootie was, they
Huge.
just put out their second record. I remember meeting those guys and realizing that their second record came out while their first record was still in the top 10.
That's hard to do, huh?
Like and that poor Mark guy, it just got raked over. Like my buddy Tom was just in his ass.
That night of the writers round? Really?
Because it's like,
trying to get on their record?
No, he was trying. It was that thing where, they were young.
Yeah.
And they weren't really like, that was a songwriter's kind of place that night.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, we were young too.
I mean, we were young, but we were great.
Well, we had that one good song.
But and Mark was like, why are you mad at me? I remember late at night after everybody was leaving, Mark finally looked at Tom and was like, why are you mad at me? I didn't do anything wrong. I just got in a band that happens to be really popular.
It was the moonshine. Remember they passed moonshine around that stayed in your throat for like 30 minutes and then kind of worked its way down to the rest of your body?
Oh, yeah.
I think everyone was a blithering idiot by the time that thing was over. And I'll never forget the next day we had the same manager, Kid Levitan. And we were at his office for some reason, and you kind of walked up like you had literally walked from that party, and you were in the same clothes that you had on the night before. I'm like, I love this guy. He really doesn't care. It was great.
That was always the beauty of being on the road. I always felt like a waiter. Like,
oh yeah, one uniform, right?
One uniform.
Yeah.
And when the fluorescent lights come on, you can see all the stains. But when the show's on, it looks like a cool black uniform.
Yeah, it's all kind of generic.
I mean, I would be on the road with people, and they'd have 2 bags, and we'd be gone for 2 weeks, and I'd have
a backpack.
They're like, "What the?" I'm like, "It doesn't matter, man. Watch this."
Yeah, you do disheveled very well, though. That's kind of your thing. You're the master of disheveled.
Well, you get good at what you practice.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. When was the next time? I mean, it's like I feel like we hung out then, and then I would see you like every 4 years for the next.
Well, we
25.
probably just both kept tabs on each other. You know?
Yeah.
I kept tabs on you guys because it seems like you guys did that first record
and then disappeared.
And whatever happened to?
Well,
what'd y'all do?
Well, so we did the first record, and then we did the second record. And if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there, it doesn't make any noise.
Yeah, I have a whole wood pile.
It's funny because I think we were always meant to be songwriters. Most songwriters start out as artists or something. It's funny because someone was asking me yesterday, why do you guys ever think about doing a record again? I'm like, yeah, everyone wants a songwriter to do a record until they do one. Right. And they're like, oh, now what do we do with this?
But y'all be different.
I mean,
your record would be good.
We love playing live and doing the songwriter thing, but it's okay. So the truth is we did the second record, and then we did this reality show called Barely Famous.
I remember.
Yeah. So it was, and we were at the height of like active alcoholism, let's say.
But that was also the beginning
nice
of like reality stuff.
Yeah. It was kind of early in that. And honestly, I remember them fuzzing out our mouths when we cussed. And on CMT, that's how long ago it was. Now you can pretty much say what they were blurring our mouths out from. But we did that show, and it was fun and funny. But we got sober in the middle of that show, and then I think it would be funnier now. But for the last couple episodes, it's like this isn't really that funny anymore. These guys are like hanging on for dear life, trying not to drink.
Right.
And right around that time, we got our first hit we had written for someone else. We wrote a song for Faith Hill called The Lucky One. Mm-hmm. And it went to number 5 on the chart. And we got our first check in the mail from that. I mean, you're talking about busting ass on the road for 200 days a year for like 10 years. And we got that check. I'm like, dude, we're songwriters. I mean, this is so we got sober. We started writing. And then Tim McGraw we always say we're the Cato Kalin of the Tim McGraw family.
Oh, yeah.
He just
how many songs did he do? Like how many songs of those were hits?
So we've had about 4 hits for him, but like 30 plus cuts on Tim McGraw records over the years. So we got a few songs in before we ever had a hit with him or really anybody, just songs on his record that paid a lot of money because records used to sell 4 million copies. And so you got paid for that. It's the songwriters of this generation have no concept of making money on a song that wasn't a hit. But that was,
that's an interesting concept. Like, people don't really realize the repercussions of that.
We miss great songwriters now because of that. Because there were a lot of guys that just wrote great. We would miss guys like Tom Douglas because Tom doesn't write the most hits. He just writes the greatest songs.
Right.
And you might have to go through 10 of them. But we, because everything has to be a hit now, everyone's trying to write a hit, and you miss those 6-minute story songs that are great that Tim McGraw used to have on his records.
Right, that make you fan of that artist.
And I think we miss, there are fewer songwriters, and it's not like the people that are writing songs nowadays aren't any good. They're great, but we're missing some guys that went, this isn't a way for me to make a living.
I was thinking about that the other day, like, the best and brightest figure out a way to make their talents work for them, even if it's subconsciously. Like they follow this path that ends up being where they can make money and shine.
Yeah.
And I bet you there's a lot of great songwriters that are in tech.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I was going to say I wasn't smart enough to do anything else, but I have a little, and you're a gigger, so you probably think the same way, but it's a little bit like if you have something to fall back on, you will.
Right.
And if you were going to quit and go to tech, you should have been there anyway. So
That's true.
onward. But at the same time, I feel like we do miss some songwriters that would be great for the music scene, the town of Nashville, especially, just because everything's got to be a hit.
Everything's got
to be a hit. Oh my God, it's 3.5 minutes long. It's too long. We can't,
That's why it's great when songwriters make records. That's why. Is for me, as a fan of music and as a fan of like getting into songwriters through buying records when I was a kid, you found really great songs that a songwriter would have the sensibility to put on his record because he doesn't have to have a single.
And inevitably, those songs will get cut by
Buddy Miller. I mean, Bruce Robinson, Rodney Crowell's. Like those songs get cut because
they're great songs, and Radney Foster.
And the singer gets taught how to deliver that song.
Yeah, by the writer.
By the guy who gave it an authentic professional spin,
Yeah.
Some songwriters are meant to be in a room.
Not every songwriter is a performer, that's for sure. Yeah.
But you guys have tight harmonies. It's a pro deal.
It's funny because it's like a more well-oiled machine. If we had been this good at this when we were young, it would have happened as artists. But we were distracted by everything. Substances, number one, but you're just distracted by everything. And you get a little older and you spend some years hanging out with Jay Joyce and Guy Clark, and you just get better and you stop caring about the things that don't matter and you start caring about the soul and what you're doing. And we're better at it now. It's just that, like, a 53-year-old songwriter without social media, no one wants you to do a record. They say they do, but they don't,
I just want to listen to it.
Honestly, we may do a collection. Like we talk with Jay Joyce about it all the time. Whenever we're off, all of us off on the same month, we're just going to come in here and write a record and record it while we're doing it. But we haven't been off in the last 15 years that we've been talking about.
That'd be so fun.
It would be cool.
Watching Jay in the studios. It's magic.
I don't use the word genius often, but Jay Joyce and Tom Douglas are our two heroes, Brett and I.
Yeah.
And those two guys like march completely to the beat of their own drum. Are very different, but I'm like, I would love to land somewhere between them. Just really artists.
That's an odd juxtaposition to think about. Tom
really
Douglas and Jay and me in the middle of that.
So much alike, though. As different as they are from the outer appearances, so much alike. Because they do their own thing. They're just not so concerned. They really think more about how they want to spend their day than what the result is going to be. And then, the capitalist in you always shows up somewhere towards the end of the day. Okay, Jay, can we make this commercial? Right. Because it's been really cool, but.
That's the hardest part, is to get with people like that. And then the business side of them comes out. I've found that in the studio too, where it's like people will start worrying for me about
the money,
how this is going to land. I'm like, hey man, you're freaking me out.
Jay doesn't worry about it because he's not married with kids. I'm like, of course he's not worried about it.
So how was that show? Hold on, let's go back to that show. Barely Famous. That was it.
Yeah.
I remember watching that. When was that? Like 2000?
Okay, so it would have been 2004 and 5. Yeah.
I remember.
Or 5 and 6.
Being excited because I knew you guys. And was the first show the one about the enema?
I don't know what order they showed them in, but that's not the order the first one was the one we hunted on Tim McGraw's farm. Okay. Which we actually kind of like peppered a truck. Like we shot the truck and kind of shot our bass player a little bit, and they didn't even put that on.
You either shoot someone or you don't. There's no. I shot him a little bit.
No, it's a shotgun. You kind of shoot them. No, you can. It's kind of a Dick Cheney thing where you can shoot them a little bit. Right. The shot spreads. As you know, and spurts. So if it's way away, you can. So there is a little bit of a peppering you can do.
But I just remember watching the show going.
Oh no!
This is we're watching a train wreck. Yeah. My wife was like,
"Were you nervous?
Why don't you get a show?" I was like, "Because this is not going to be on for very long."
Okay, here's what's funny. They gave us a second season, which we did, only 4 episodes, and they offered us a third season, but we had gotten sober and written a hit, and we're like, no, we're done with that.
Well, you got that kind of. I mean, it was kind of like the Jackass of country music kind of vibe.
Yeah,
you kind of had to commit to that bit.
And it's funny because it's still literally, so we've been sober 17 years, both of us, same week. And everyone's, oh, those guys are crazy. I'm like, we haven't really been crazy in almost 2 decades, but they were, yeah, it is. It marks your time and you kind of, everyone's waiting for us to light our farts on fire at a party still. And I'm like, I don't really do that anymore.
Right.
And then, occasionally we do it still. So, yeah.
For old time's sake.
Matured.
What's the guy's name? What band was he in? The big punk rocker.
Henry Rollins?
Henry Rollins.
I mean, pretty good pull for me.
That was a good pull.
You said big punk rocker and that. I know
the muscles. And but there is that vibe of sober living that doesn't take away any of the intensity.
No.
You have that.
No, absolutely. I wouldn't say. In fact, it enhances. It's so funny because I always literally thought in my head when I can't wait. I need to finish my career before I quit drinking. I kind of knew it was coming. You know what I mean? Like I know it's coming, but
starts off as a distant bell.
It's this thing that's going to happen. I was literally like waiting for the DUI. That'll be the bell ring, and it's funny, the DUI never happened, ironically. We were on a bus a lot, so I didn't do a lot of driving. So, but I was protecting the songwriting. I'm like, I'll never be able to write again if I don't do this. You had some Ernest Hemingway complex, like that's the ticket. And the funny thing is I had 0 hits,
right?
No songwriting income as a drunk guy. None, but I can't possibly give this up because this lucrative career I'm living off advances is going to happen. We got sober and had our first 2 or 3 hits in the first year. I'm like, oh, maybe I was full of shit the whole time.
That's like magic.
Yeah.
Plus, I remember thinking about the Hemingway bit. And then I heard somewhere, I don't know if it's true or not, but that he didn't drink until 6. That he would
AM or PM?
PM.
Okay.
That he would write all day.
Huh.
Everybody thinks of him as being this drunk genius. But from what I understand, he would write until 6 and then he'd get hammered and go be the public drunk that he was. But the writing thing,
it stays with you a little bit as you're in your mode. Stephen King has a book called On Writing. I'm not a Stephen King fan because I'm a wuss and it scares me, but he has a book called On Writing, and it's kind of his memoir, and then it's kind of about writing. Mm-hmm. Great book. I suggest it to any kind of writer of any ilk anywhere. But he said it's a total myth. The whole, like he said, it's just a crutch to lean on to say that. He said it has nothing to do because he's a recovering alcoholic and he does, and he talks about it. But he wrote the book Carrie and doesn't remember a word of it. He was hammered the whole time he wrote it. I'm like, you're trying to say it doesn't matter, and that's pretty good. That did pretty well for you, right?
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
But he had youth.
Yeah.
I mean, every time I ever tried to write drunk, I mean, I would write while drinking a little bit, but your recall is kind of the first to go. Like get like little bursts of a thread, and then 10 minutes later, you don't feel the same energy with the same.
Well, the attention span.
That's what I mean.
Agreed. The attention span goes to nothing. Here's the deal. I don't think that we ever wrote drunk or high, but we wrote about being drunk and high. And I realized that you can write about being drunk and high when you're sober too. In fact, a lot better.
More clearly.
A little bit of a historical thing, It's funny because people are like, how do you write about that stuff when you've been sober so long? I'm like, I'm an expert.
Right.
I remember how to do that.
Right. You don't
We have a little tiny, very, very tiny, but tiny tinge of hope in all of our drinking songs too. There's a little bit, it's unnoticeable sometimes.
I always notice like a lot of drinking songs, the great drinking songs aren't about drinking at all. It's about why.
Yes. Yeah, it's her.
It's about why.
It's always her, right?
And that's where a lot of people miss the thread because it happens a lot in mainstream music too. It's like they start talking about the drinking.
Yeah.
And those are just throwaways.
Yeah. It's just furniture.
Yeah, it's like
and drink is just furniture around the heartbreak usually.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when did you guys decide, like, did you get dropped? Like, was your songwriting career almost
forced on us?
Well, yeah.
You can say it. You can say it. We're old friends. Hell yeah. We got dropped so much.
I love Pinson says he ate himself into a songwriting
career. He really did. We told him the other day, you're twice the songwriter you used to be. No, literally. Twice. Well, so we got dropped like every album and they re-signed us. Somehow, see, we were good live and we were bad in the studio, I think. And so they would drop us because we wouldn't play by the rules or we would get drunk at a radio thing. And then we would play a show live and they would get re-inspired and re-signed. So RCA signed us 3 times.
Wow.
Like with advances, thank God, because that's how we live for the time being. But yeah, they the last stint with them, it's so funny. I'm sitting here as a long-haired 53-year-old guy, but they told me to get my hair cut. And that was the reason we weren't getting played at radios because I had long hair and tattoos, which is funny now. Everyone's got face tattoos. And at the time I had like one little bitty cross. That was the tattoo that they were worried about.
Right.
You know? And it was so funny. And I just was like, nah, I'm not getting my hair cut. And it wasn't about the hair. It was about the idea that, I mean, where's the rebellion in this stuff? It's just completely gone away. So they dropped us for the last time. And then I cut my hair just out of spite to show them that it was just out over that. Rebel without a clue. And, but really I think we signed with a little independent company that a friend of ours owned. A guy named Strauss Zelnick that used to run BMG, had a record label. And we did like just an indie record, which is my favorite thing we ever did for sure. And we were on the road shooting that reality series and we had that indie record out. And then it was about money that we got our first hit. And when we got that check from the Faith Hill song, I was like, oh yeah, we're doing this. We're done. And it lined up. We got sober, and I'll be honest. It's amazing what you can accomplish when you don't care who gets the credit. Yeah. And when we realized that it was okay to be behind the scenes, that life got better, the songwriting got better, we made some money. It was about humility, but it was also about making a living, being home. We had kids. We wanted to be home with our kids more often. And so it was like a conscious choice. We're like, yeah, we're songwriters. And we went.
When you were a kid, is that what you like?
I didn't even know it was a job. When I was a kid, I did not know songwriting was a job. I wrote songs. I started writing songs when I was like 12 because I thought, well, I want to be Tom Petty and he writes his own songs. And so I just thought you had to write your own songs.
Is Tom from Tampa?
Gainesville. Pretty close though. But he's a Florida guy. And he was always like our North Star of everything. Explains a lot, I'm sure. But I wrote songs because I wanted our band to play them. And Brett was just like my little brother. I know he looks older because he went gray earlier. But he's
got that badass salt and pepper distinguished look.
It's almost like he colored it that way, but he didn't. Some girl asked him the other day, said, how did you get your hair that color? He goes, God did it. But
and I'm God.
Yeah. He'd been to a lot of 12-step meetings to figure out he wasn't God. I don't know if he got the message yet. But I wrote all the songs in our band, and I just told Brett we need a drummer and a singer, so you're both, So
Brett wasn't even into writing.
No, nothing. So I wrote all of our songs for our little teenage high school band, and I just gave them to everybody. And
so you've been carrying around Brett.
Oh, my back hurts. I've been carrying him so long. It's funny because one day, I realized he can play every instrument. He literally can. He's pretty damn good from B3 organ, piano, drums, bass, played sax, acoustic guitar. I mean, he's pretty good. A musician at every instrument. He's a really good singer. And then one day I'm like, he's a damn good writer. And so we were each writing our own songs and bringing them to our little band. And we started competing for whose songs to record and to play live. And so one day we just went, all right, we're just going to write together. That'll avoid the competition. Let's just write together. And literally we have written every song together for over 30 years. I have not written one song without him, nor has he written a song without me. 30 years.
That's insane.
It's insane, isn't it? I'm
They'll
not even sure
fight
why.
Like brothers?
Oh yeah, yeah. Not as often. We get in a really big one about once a decade. We get in a little one every day we're writing. I mean, every day that we're writing. If a new person we're writing with is a little bit like, whoa.
What a dream, though, man. To be able to have crazy. That thing.
30 years. We've written every song together. Can you imagine that?
No.
And we're not even. I mean, I guess the husband-wife duo. I understand a little bit because one of them is thinking about if I argue with this person too much, I'm not going to get sex.
Okay, so that's the woman saying that?
But I never thought that about Brett. No, so we argue it out. And there's no buffer zone. We're not really worried about the feelings.
Do y'all do you two go with like new artists?
All the time.
I bet they are intimidated, man.
I don't know. Sometimes it's funny because sometimes you feel like you're steamrolling this new artist. And so I will back off and I'll try to back him off or he'll back, hey, let's, what do you want to say? Because our job is really a service thing now. Our job is to help someone get where they want to go. This is not about my art. It's about helping you get your art better. So that part works good. But other times a new person, artist or writer will come in the room and I think they're trying to prove themselves and they're steamrolling us. And I'm like, okay, well,
Right.
you got all the answers. Now, I'll be honest. I write with people that are a lot better than me all the time. And I'm like, man, you just got to, I don't know if you're familiar with Michael Hardy, but
I don't know.
the first time.
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah, he's really big right now. But the first time we ever wrote with him, he was just this chubby kid playing bass for CJ Solar. And I don't know how we got in the room together, but somebody booked us on a writing session. At the end of the day, I was like, holy shit, is that kid better than us? I mean, he was so good. Such a great writer. There's a new guy named Ernest that we actually signed. We drug him around town to get him a publishing deal. And he's got a song out now, and he's got a buttload of cuts and hits and radio. I mean, right away, he was great. But there's other guys that come in and they have all the answers, but not really all the talent. So it's a little strange to kind of, I don't want to be the crotchety old get off my lawn guy.
Right.
But.
Well, I've thought about that a lot, especially since in the last, since people stopped selling records. So all those album cuts are gone. And artists got wise to publishing. And I always ask guys that are staff songwriters, like that write every day. Cause I write for my records and I write when I write.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've often wondered what effect that has of songwriters get in a room with an artist that doesn't really know how to write. And it's like, are we missing out on some really great songs? I mean, some of those great songs didn't have an artist in the room.
Well, yeah. And what's funny? Like I said, the two guys I just mentioned were so great so early. So some guys really are great early. Other people, if they'll let you help them, because there are certain guys that we let help us when we were early and didn't know what we were doing. Don Schlitz and Tom Douglas.
Oh yeah.
And we wrote with them a lot, and I'm so honored that we were able to learn. But there's some sort of middle ground between not participating in the right, but letting them lead the day and having them do that. And some people can do that and some people can't. Know when to let the other person lead the day. And by the way, still, some days we're leading, some days I'm leading, some days Brett's leading, some days the artist is leading. And there's a lot of new talent out there. I just feel like sometimes we're missing some great songwriters because of the artists have also, or the songwriters have discovered publishing as well. And so the songwriters own publishing companies, and it's small.
Yeah.
It's small. We've gotten involved in the business because we've had to. And it's a crazy time. It's like the Wild West out there. I don't know how songwriters are going to get paid in the future, or whether or not they.
There he is.
Hello?
He shows up every time.
Are we going to meditate now?
How are they going to get paid?
I think the artists are going to cut them into the masters. I swear. I think that's what's going to be the deal. I think artists will, and probably start small, but I think that's what will happen. I think some artists will start cutting songwriters into the masters a little bit, because I don't think Google's going to give up their position.
Right.
Every time we got this going on in Congress, and Google goes, smashes you with their thumb. So, but it's terrible because, I mean, we play our hit songs live for corporate gigs. This thing called Songwriter City is awesome. We have a blast doing it. We still, we pop a hit out every now and then, and we do. I'm going to be okay. The 25-year-old songwriter, I don't know what to tell him. There's a track guy that we work with, and he had like 20-something cuts the year before. He's broke because he didn't have any hits. Right. 20-something cuts, but he barely holding on to a publishing deal because there's no money coming in. It's an odd place to be.
Well, I guess that's one of those deals where it's like, Tom Brady took hits in his contract so that he could have a good team around him. I mean, I guess that's kind of the theory you're talking about, is that they're going to have to be cut into the masters. I hope. It's funny how that's turned completely on its head. Because I remember, man, when I was on Big Machine, after about, having hits is fun. It's fucking fun.
Oh, it's the greatest.
But just like anything, then you realize how the work you have to do to have a hit. And it's like after 3 or 4, you're like, so hold on a minute. I'm going out. I didn't write this song.
Right.
So I'm going out and working for the publisher. And I was always, this was before MP3s and Spotify and all that stuff. So I was always kind of on the side of like, hey, like I wanted to be Elvis. If I'm going to cut your song and it's going to be a hit, give me some of the publishing.
Yeah.
Even if I didn't write it, because I'm a writer. I know,
Yeah.
And now it's different. Like that's turned itself.
Well, the roles have reversed.
How they have.
Yeah. I remember thinking, man, the publishers and songwriters have the gig, and the record companies are getting screwed. And sure enough, it's completely flipped. And now I don't understand why the publishers aren't panicking more. I've asked them, why aren't you panicking? Well, they'll figure something out. I'm like, really? You think they're going to figure something out? Because I'm not sure they are.
You know, there's John Randall was telling me that because he can't sleep.
Right.
So he has he goes and checks out like stoner things on Spotify, like stoner sleep music.
Oh yeah.
He called me one morning and he was like, okay, we're fucked. I was like, why? He goes, I used this app to sleep, this playlist to sleep last night, and it worked. It was great, but it was like crickets in a field. And then he goes,
it's like a million views.
Not a million, like millions and millions of hits. Somebody owns that master. Somebody's getting paid on putting a microphone.
And there's no lyrics.
There's nothing, man. He's like, we're fucked. He goes, let's take a mic and go out to the highway and just let's stand there and listen to cars go by. We'll make $1 million.
I'm going to go write with Jack Ingram next week, honey. We're just going to go put a mic in a field somewhere.
Seriously.
Oh my God.
We're going to sit about 200 yards away from the mic and just have a conversation for 3 hours.
You know what's funny? It's like you were asking me what it does, like staff writing does to your psyche. So I don't even know if that's one of the things is you just stop loving music. I love music.
I get it.
But I don't listen to it a lot because you do it all day. It's like the lawn guy coming home and edging his driveway. You just don't,
the lawn guy's lawn's the ugliest
I'm
one.
I'm listening to Dave Ramsey on the way home. You know what I mean? Trying to get my finances in order or something. It's just so much music for so long. It kind of takes that thing away. So I've never liked jazz. Just don't get it. It's just not my thing. I started loving jazz because it doesn't have lyrics.
Right.
I don't know the guy, everything on country radio. I probably had lunch with the guy that wrote the song. I'm like, oh yeah, I know they say that every song or whatever it might be.
Right.
Like
you can hear a line and be like, I know who that is.
We all have go-to. Yeah, he tried that line out on me last year. We all have go-tos. I mean, we have like 3 lines that are in a bunch of songs.
I didn't do that line. I didn't write that line. Fuck him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a hit. But you just kind of stop like following. Everyone's like, have you heard this new band? There's some guys that are my age and they still keep track of every new rock band, pop band that comes on. I just have like 30,000 foot view. I think we're better at writing. We're really good at the craft, I think now, but I don't research it a whole lot. Right. Like when you're writing for your record, how do you put it? Like this month I'm going to write this?
No.
Or just throughout the year when you feel like writing? Oh,
well, man, I'm just like you. I mean, I can say this and mean like I'm not talented enough to do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like it sounds self-deprecating.
Just like you, thanks.
Look, I've heard you say false. I've heard your false humilities enough.
Yeah, but they're false. No. I
you know, man, yeah, it's like I really have never tested that out because it was so hard for me to turn the creative faucet on.
Don't want to turn it off.
That I'm superstitious about turning it off, man.
Agreed.
So I just go around with my radar out. I listened to like Jerry Seinfeld was on Howard Stern, and he talks about how he has no real relationships because everything is fodder. Everything is that a bit? Is that a bit? Is that a bit? Is that a bit?
Everything's a song.
And I do that with everybody. Like every time I'm talking to somebody, if it feels like a real conversation, I'm just waiting for them to give me my songs. Oh
yeah, and I know you got notes in your phone with
thousands,
200. Yeah. I've by the year, but I'm like 200 a year.
Yeah,
easy. Of just stupid ideas, and they just every now and then they become hits. But yeah, everything. It's true. Like you never stop in the like. It's my wife will know if we're watching Ozark or something, and I reach over to get my phone. She goes, yeah, I know, and she'll tell me the line I'm writing down.
She already knows what you're going to say.
I'm like, honey, guess what? You're a songwriter. He doesn't even know.
All you got to do is listen to be a songwriter.
Like we can write songs. Having a good idea is the hard part.
It's
like,
true.
well, we could fill in the blanks, but God, give me a good
Well, that's
idea.
kind of the way I've always written it. And I've noticed that it's not that way. Like guys that I know that do it for a living, just the writing part.
Yeah.
They never start a song without knowing where they're ending it or knowing what the hook is. There's always a hook that starts it.
No, I agree. I'm OCD. I want to know what this is about before we start. But some guys will just start writing. Like,
that's what I've always done.
I like that. I admire it.
I mean, I write down all the hooks.
Yeah.
But they're in my phone. They stay in my phone. When I actually get down to writing the song,
you just start writing.
It's like I've had so many panic moments where I'm like, I don't know how this ends.
Yeah.
Like,
So I have a friend, a really good friend. His name's C.G. Cooper. He's an author. He writes fiction. And he starts writing a book and he has no idea how it's going to end. And that blows me away. I'm like, how do you do that? Like, I'm writing a 3-minute.
How does he do it?
I don't know. He just starts writing. He said, it just comes to me.
Is he a friend of yours?
Yeah, he's a really good friend of mine.
And you haven't gotten that out of him yet?
No, he says there is no getting it out of him. He said, I just let it go and I think about it when I'm there. Okay, what's going to happen now? I don't get that at all, man. I'm OCD.
Yeah.
Like I want to know what this is about before we start so that my details are going to be, I love the details, by the way. Anything from Charles Bukowski to Quentin Tarantino movies. I love the details.
Yeah.
The spending too long on one scene or belaboring a point in the song that's cool. So I feel like you can do that better if you know where the end is so that your cool fodder pointed to something instead of just being there. But Nashville turns you into a machine of you can't say it if it doesn't make sense.
Well, like the other day when I sent you that song, that Springsteen song.
Yeah.
It was funny, your
awesome.
comment. I know you had to appreciate it. And
I loved
did you hear the guitar part?
I did. Yeah,
did you know what I was talking about?
It was a huge compliment, but I did hear it.
Those kind of thick statato thing.
Aggressively playing acoustic lead. It's not done that much, actually. Yeah, so I love
hearing the snap. Anyway,
I love it. Yeah.
But your comment was so.
What was my comment?
I love that song. No, I miss hearing songs that are just written to be written, that don't really have a point.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, that's so like that's a common comment from people that write every day.
We are not really allowed to write songs without a point. I mean, we're allowed. We can write anything we want, but you're not going to get.
It's not going to be a good day's work.
It's no one's going to hear it. You know what's funny? So we this kid Ernest. I think we might have his next single, but we have a song that's on his record called "Feet Want to Run," and it is almost doesn't have a point. But then I listen back to him like, oh, it totally has a point. We go off on a couple lines, but even when we think we're going outside of the lines, man, it's pretty. You know what we're talking about. You know what's happening in every line of the song. And
well, that's the beauty of that kind of writing.
Yeah,
is that the subtleties show up in time.
Yeah,
just like when you look back on a conversation that you thought was just in passing, it wasn't.
Yeah,
that's the faith you have to write those songs.
Yeah, and honestly, we write enough of everything. It is so when we were artists, being ADD was not a good thing. Like we're kind of like dirt rocker guy. We're kind of Christopherson fan guy. There's all different facets. So one song would feel very hillbilly and one song would feel Rolling Stones and the other song is Tom. Very, very different. Right. And as a writer, that's good because we cover a lot of ground. But as artists, it was terrible because we never really had a sound. Right. We didn't really know who, like on stage, we wanted to be the Rolling Stones, but in the studio, we wanted to, write ballads. And so as a writer, it's kind of cool we get to do that. But there's really no rhyme or reason to, it's funny because.
That's probably why you got signed though. 4 times, because it's
we're good at getting signed.
The energy that you guys had and have is palpable. I mean, it's right there for the taking. And so I can imagine. I mean,
yeah, I think we were good at getting the deal when there was air between us. But once it got to tape, we never found. We had Jay Joyce did one song on our second record. It's called "King of Nothing." And it was supposed to be for a movie. It didn't ever show up in the movie. And it's the best thing we ever recorded.
Right.
There's like 16 bars of nothing in the middle of the song for no reason. Just this one, because Jay's a freak and he doesn't care. It's the coolest thing we ever did. And we just kind of,
Jay was hearing an orchestra.
He goes, just somebody start playing and then everyone just start playing when you want. And we used our live band. And as we come out of this break, this long break of no music, the guitar starts by itself and then the drums start and then the bass starts 4 bars after that. It's an amazing piece of art and it's great, but that was a piece of getting us on tape. But I have a feeling if we had ever gotten what we thought was magic on tape, it still wouldn't have been a country hit. We're better at writing country songs than we were recording them and being that artist.
That's great to be able to compartmentalize that.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you, man. I mean, when you're an artist, I mean, you just have different arguments in your head. Like the best stuff that I've ever done, they weren't singles because it's.
Do you know Chris Lindsay?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's a songwriter in Nashville, and he's been he's just a good resource. He has good quotes. I love quotes, but he said your biggest hits won't be your best songs, and your best songs won't be your biggest hits, and that has been completely true. And as long as you're okay with that, you can have both. Because I think if you did it's funny because I see a lot of you and Brett and I'm sure vice versa. But if you did what we did, you wouldn't be able to have your artist career.
Right.
And if we did what
That's
you
why
did,
I
we
keep
wouldn't be able to have
interjecting
a
myself
songwriter
into
career.
these stories. Like I try whenever I do the podcast, I try where everything turns back. But
It is your show.
well, but I try not to insert my stories into because it's like that's so easy to do. But when I talk to you guys, we do have a lot in common.
Oh yeah, there's a lot, but it's starkly different where it's different. And I could see you doing what we're doing, and I could see us having done what you've done, but they didn't. We kind of made that songwriter choice, and I felt like if we had kept doing our own records, it would have always been affecting. We became helpers, service people. I'm not going to help you get where you want to go. We really got inside Tim McGraw's head and knew what he wanted to write about because we became friends. We spent a lot of time with him. We go spearfishing for weeks in the Bahamas, and I'm like, oh, we know this guy. So we wrote to him a lot. And it's kind of like the service industry versus
Plus,
what
for
do I
an
wanna say?
artist, I've only had that happen a couple of times where somebody writes a song with you in mind. What an ego trip.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, what? Y'all thought about me for 4 hours straight?
Start talking about your hometown.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that's my hometown.
Like, I'm sure Tim was like, yes.
Then everybody does that. So it's not as much. But like when you're writing with Miranda.
Did you write with Tom? Did you write with Tim?
We wrote, okay, I don't know if you know the song, If You're Reading This.
Oh, yeah.
So we wrote that with Tim. And we've written like 2 other songs with him, but he doesn't write a lot. And he would be a good writer.
Does he enjoy it?
It's nerve-wracking for him. He's actually good at it, but it just doesn't, he's doing so much.
Well, and his
Authors-
debilitating self-esteem issues.
Doesn't every star? I mean, of course it is. So yeah, yeah, exactly. When you're very rarely wrong, and the writers, if you're wrong,
Yeah,
all
that's
day
right,
you're
man.
wrong a little bit because there's 2 people. And do you like that line? Not really. You know,
My favorite is the play it, and it's like, yeah, it's cool. It's like, oh, that sucks. Oh,
see, that's what Brett and I don't do. If he does it, I'm like, no, that's stupid. Okay, and we go to
That's
something
beautiful.
else, or he does to me, and so we did at some point have to agree to like respect each other's ability a
Right,
little
you're
bit.
hurting
We're
my
like,
feelings.
We're really shitting on each other every day. It was getting a little bit like, okay, we gotta start being nicer about this.
but that must be fun, like to get inside someone else's head, and it's almost like writing for a. Or you telling me? It seems to me like I'm sure y'all have written songs directly for movies or TV shows where they give you the script and then you write.
Yeah. They usually don't make it in the movie, but yeah,
I
we've
get
done
it.
that. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like if you have Tim McGraw in the room or whatever, and he's giving you the script or the storyline of what, and so all the pressure's off.
Writing as a character, so fun to me when you get into it. Brett and I and a friend of ours, Blair Daly, got in a groove about 8 years ago, and we wrote as Hank Moody from Californication. We just wrote as him, and we got a really cool Gary Allan song from it, and like 3 McGraw songs from it. It was that character, and those kind of guys were going to do it, but we weren't getting like. I'm not even going to say names, but there were certain guys that weren't going to cut these songs. They had an edge on them. And so it's cool writing as a character. It's just that at some point it's better if the artist is in the room. We've had songs that literally the artist told us later, yeah, I didn't release that song because I didn't like this word. Like, oh, just tell us, man. We'll change the word.
Right.
I'm not stupid. Like, just
we're,
tell us.
Yeah, we're good.
So if the artist is in the room and they tell you in real time, I wouldn't sing that word. You go, okay, next, move on. And we go to it's kind of crazy. It's like a crapshoot. There's so many writers with so many hits now. I mean, 20s and 30s of hits. And this would have been like an amazing career that we've had, but you're surrounded by guys that are so much more successful. I've kind of gotten into the Jay Joyce, how do I want to spend my day thing, and going that way. So even in the mercenary mindset, still, how do I want to spend my day? I love writing hit songs. I love to win. There's nothing like you said. It's great having a hit song,
right?
But I'm not sprinting after it.
Right. Well, you don't have to.
I'm jogging beside it, holding its hand if it wants to hold my hand.
You're the wise bull now.
Yeah. Walk down the hill.
Yeah.
No.
That's you know what I hear you say is, and it's such a thing about, in recovery, but it's like, and it's hard for me to wrap my head around. You had to let go of your artist ego. That's tough to do, man. Like to actually be in service to the song and to the artist, and relinquish only being in service to the art.
Literally made our career. We probably wouldn't be. I'd be working at Home Depot if I hadn't gotten into recovery, because
you'd be selling cars, motherfucker.
I'm not sure I could sell a car.
Not now, but you could have when you were 30.
Yeah, I could sell anything then. But literally, the difference between it's all about. I don't know how I was this dumb, but I was. I thought you signed a record deal. Yeah. I'm a little smart. I thought you signed a record deal, and then you just got drunk and made music, and everyone else did everything else. I didn't even look at our cover art for our albums. I'm like, oh, it's somebody else's job. I don't care. Well, that's really when the work starts. So when the transition from like being able to serve, like I'm going to help this person get where they want to be, that's become our best thing. We can help someone get where they want to go, because we're not the best songwriters in the world, but our heads are in the right place. Brett and I have good synergy together. And we're pretty good at helping someone get to it. And then you get good at crafting the song. But helping someone, letting go of ego and self and all those corny things that, you learn along the way is literally why we have a career. Because I'll tell you this, if you get to where we are in our age and you're not fun to be in the room with anymore, I'm not talented enough to not be fun to be in a room with.
That's right.
There's laughter, there's vulnerability. I mean, we'll go for it. We've written some crazy, stupid songs just going for it.
Well, you can't serve two masters, they say. And
that's why we don't do a record.
That's right. That makes sense now.
Yeah. And then maybe we will, because I'd be honest, I don't have, and I can say this for Brett too, we don't have any FOMO. Like the record comes out, and we don't have any songs on it, and somebody we wrote for before, I'm like, they grow, they move. I don't care anymore. I'm cool with like whatever happens. Life has kicked me hard enough to where I'm not worried about the little things. So I can actually, this is crazy, I can actually be happy for someone else now. It's not something that came naturally to me. I know you're getting greedy here. I can actually be happy for someone else. I can.
That's fantastic.
It's recent, sadly.
So you don't have that thing. So when a record comes out, and like, let's say some of your buddies, not Tom Douglas, not your heroes, but like
a younger guy,
your peer.
Yeah.
And they have a song that's great and it's a hit.
Yeah.
You don't have that tinge of jealousy?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
As long as they're less successful than me.
There we go. I mean, come on. Hey, honest. Jesus.
No. I mean, yeah. Do I ever have some sort of kind pity thoughts about Shane McAnally and Ashley Gorley? No, screw them. No, they're brilliant, both of those guys. But there are friends of mine that have had. Well, Ernest is like my little brother, this little guy, and he's crushing and having these hits, and I'm literally just happy for him. And up to now, none of it's been stuff we wrote with him, and we kind of started him out. But just using that as an example, and that's a recent thing in the last 5 years, 3 or 4 years, especially the last couple years. But I'm like,
5 years ago, did it kind of light a fire, or what? How did that affect you? Did it burn?
No, I just pissed him on for a few days. There's a lot of new writers. Well, listen to my songs. They're better than song A that's on the radio at number 3 right now. I'm like, man, you can't look at it that way. You can't. I haven't done that in a long time. Right. Well, my songs are better than this. It's a subjective thing that we're in. Who knows? Hey, I can't be that guy anymore either. We wrote Red Solo Cup. I can't have an ego about what becomes a hit. You know what I mean? It's funny how a song like that'll humble you.
Was that a 10-minute song? Did you write that with Toby?
No. With Brett and Jim Beavers. We started a college band that never played a gig called the Warren Beavers. We said, we're going to write like a college band, never serious stuff that no one else in town would write. And so we wrote this first little 6-song EP. On that album was a song called Hey Now that Tim McGraw cut, Red Solo Cup, and Felt Good on My Lips, which is a 3-week number 1 for Tim McGraw. We were not at all trying. When we wrote Red Solo Cup, total joke, Jim Beavers came in and said, hey, I've been wanting to write a love song to a red cup. What do you think? And we're like, yes, let's do it. Yeah, super fast. As a joke, we weren't even going to record it. Luke Wooten was the engineer on our demo session. This is a little band that we made CDs.
Remember those?
It was called the Warren Beavers. And we just passed them around town as like a band. And then we got cuts from them. And we weren't going to record Red Solo Cup. And for that little disc, and the engineer said, no, you record that just for me. I just wanted to show my wife. And so we had already broken the drums and everything down and the amps. So we just stood around a mic and did the song, and Jim Beaver sang it while we were doing it as a joke, just for this guy's wife. And that's literally the record. Toby just took the voice off, but he actually made us do the round. It's just the four of us in a circle around a mic with no drums. Brett Beavers with a banjo and the rest of us with acoustic guitars.
See, man,
that was kind of a music moment.
That's
for a
fantastic.
dumb song like that.
Well, that's the thing about dumb songs like that. They're not dumb. Yeah. Like it's a moment of creation. Like y'all caught the moment of creation on tape, and that's why it worked.
It took 20 years and 30 minutes to write that song.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? It's but that being said, the little 6-song album we did, this is great. So we're gonna do this again. We're not gonna. Well, the second time we tried to do it, we cared.
Right.
We were pointing to. We wrote a couple other really funny songs. They just didn't happen. We were trying.
Just trying.
We were trying. It's so funny how music doesn't really care how it knows how you're feeling, but it doesn't care what you're trying to do.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we get hooked on it, because that's
why we do drugs and drink, because it puts you in that mindset where you don't care and you think you're doing it better.
I've always said that the drugs and alcohol were like a game of chutes and ladders where you have to go all the way around, but take a little hit and you get that chute down to the groove. You're like, oh, I'll just take this ride down the slide.
Taking a shortcut to inspiration.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. It was a shortcut to inspiration. It's funny.
But that's some of the beauty of getting to dig into that stuff is like, guy asked me a couple weeks ago, he was like, what great things happened because of drugs and alcohol? I'm like, well, that's a long list.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend like that they weren't great. If it's just, there's that other side of it.
Even in the recovery portion, my life, the service that I've been able to provide in my life, it comes from the recovery from that I wouldn't have gotten. Believe me, my parents tried in church. It just didn't take.
Right.
It comes from whatever I am that's decent now, comes from me having been that guy and learning to recover and go to new guys. So yeah, I give it credit for quite a bit. So even these things during it, but even the post-op of, anything moderately kind about me would come from that or whatever. Because I'm a pretty selfish son of a bitch if I'm just acting on my own instincts. But
that's why it's pretty amazing to hear you talk about. I mean, you're such a big personality and you fill up a room, which I love. But man, that's difficult to turn that into to having real humility and going, okay, it's not about me. Because I mean, if you're writing a song for someone else, let's say it's a young female artist, to not insert yourself into that song is fucking difficult, because all the self-esteem issues, all the insecurities of like, man, am I really writing this song about whatever it is? And you're just facilitating for someone else. It's a trip.
That's a really funny point, because we wrote with Taylor Swift before we got sober. And our comment was, nobody wants to hear songs about your teenage life in high school. I've been wrong a lot in life, but never more wrong than telling Taylor Swift that no one wanted to hear about high school. Apparently, everyone wanted to hear about high school.
That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I guess. 30-year-old women want to hear about high school, apparently.
My mom, because she's my mom, and I was on tour with her when all that was happening. And
with Taylor or your mom?
I toured with my mom. No, I'm kidding. Can you imagine? She's out getting the weed.
There are families.
Give me the weed, Mom! My mom would call me and be on my side, because we were on the same label. She was getting all the attention. So
that's right. You did your time on the.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So she'd be like, "Well, I don't really get it." I'm like, "Well, Mom, your golden child here has been trying for 20 years to write one song that hits an entire generation in the face." She's like, "Yeah, well,
she's written
every song she's put out hits an entire generation. Like, I don't want to hear any more shit talking on this fucking genius."
It makes me feel nice that you missed it too. I mean, I just missed it. And what's funny is 18 years later, she went back and recorded 5 songs that she wrote back then so she could have the masters and added them. And one of them was our song, and she did a duet with Keith Urban.
Really?
And because of streaming and not record sales, we made like $800 a piece.
Way to go.
The Taylor Swift
Great
song.
timing, Taylor.
But we did get a cut finally.
That's good.
No, but it's amazing how wrong you can be, and you're just adamant. I'm not saying I wouldn't have missed it being sober and in recovery, but I'd have been much less likely to miss like the specialness of Taylor Swift in a room, because I was like, high school songs. And the truth is, maybe if we had, and we did write some songs with her, but I would have, if you knew, I would give it a lot of focus, which we really didn't. It was just,
well, yeah. I mean,
she's a good writer too. I always said she was always really good. I just didn't think anyone wanted to hear about high school, but apparently they had better high school experiences than I did or something. I was not thrilled with it. Yeah.
Well,
we went to a little church school.
Did you listen to music growing up? Like,
oh yeah, because we weren't allowed. I grew up in a Baptist church, super fundamental, evangelical, speaking in tongues Baptist church. So kind of a hodgepodge of weirdness, all piled into one. And we weren't allowed to listen to non-Christian music. So we started listening to like heavy metal Christian music, like Stryper. And then we weren't allowed to listen to that either. I'm like, good God, what do we have left? So I loved music. So I snuck out of my house in the middle of the night, and we would run down the street like a mile to our friend's house and watch MTV for like 3 hours and then run back and sneak into our bedrooms. I was smitten by music. I loved Van Halen and Tom Petty and, you know, the video to You Got Lucky Baby. And just, it was just, I loved
Hot for Teacher.
Oh, Hot for Teacher. Come on. It's the greatest.
We were watching MTV at the same time.
Yeah.
Because you were in PT1.
You know, it's funny. Another connection I just realized too. Sorry, we're skipping around a lot. But Lips of an Angel, which you had a big hit on, was we wrote like the next 2 albums with Hinder after that album that they had that song. We wrote All American Nightmare. We wrote like 9 songs on that record, and then 6 on the one following that, and then whatever happened. But it's funny. We just
Where are those guys?
They have a new singer. We're friends with them. They have a new singer, so I don't know much about the band, and then we ran into Austin. But
you know what I found out through doing that song is hell hath no fury like a Hinder fan scorned.
Oh, really?
Dude, they were not happy that some country dude stole their touchstone.
It's like Jason Isbell fans being mad at Morgan Wallen. I'm like, come on, man. It's a compliment.
A trip, man.
Really? They were upset,
I was like, dude, I'm just trying to make them $1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny.
The funny thing is they don't have any fans left. So where's the ire now?
They became Ingram fans.
Yeah. You stole them.
I knew I could win them over with love.
Yeah, you're kind of like us. We're on the long, slow climb to the middle.
That's right.
You know what I mean? It's like
the middle feels good.
No, it's great, man. Living on a 5, and you don't ever
living on 5.
Living on a 5. Taylor Swift only has one way to go.
That's right. We get to kind of just be ambivalent.
My father-in-law, who's 75 and doesn't know anything about anything and doesn't care. He watches All in the Family all day. Yeah. He said the other day, where's Taylor Swift been lately? She's taking a vacation, maybe. She's 3 months off. Is that cool with you?
That's funny.
It's pretty funny, though. Like, where's Taylor Swift been lately? I'm like, man, the artists don't really get a break to
I've thought about that because I have kids that age. I have kids that were teenagers when Taylor was like really.
They love them.
They loved her.
Yeah.
And there is a moment. I remember Emery Gordy Jr., the producer.
Yep.
He was like, man, if this starts happening, you get 10 years. And then some people make it past 10 years, but artists get a decade. And then the great ones continue to do whatever they're going to do, have a second act.
Really small group of them.
Yeah, second act. Even if it's not hit songs, like, you know, Haggard toured and, you know,
George Strait.
You can keep going. I mean, George is an anomaly.
Yeah.
But it's funny, you can feel the air shift after. I remember seeing it with, like, Miley Cyrus is doing a great job of having a third act, you know. But there's like this moment where the anticipation for the record's not the same. Everyone at school's not talking about it. They're aware she has a record out, but it's like there has to be some, like the highs. It's like doing crack.
She's dying right now that Morgan Wallen is outselling her. She's dying.
She's to be
freaking out. I mean, she has to be. She has to be.
Unless she's
that guy with a sleeveless snap shirt is outselling me. She's freaking out about it. The audience does what they want to do. We don't decide.
Yeah.
It's funny. I'll say this. the Wild West that the new music business is, and the streaming versus buying albums in stores. Man, I used to love to go to the store and see an album with your song on it, and we would always go buy it. I miss that. But truly, the audience gets to decide now. They decide what they like. We don't. I mean, if one song is outstreaming the rest of them by 4 times, that song usually gets to be the single.
Yeah.
So it's a lot less griping from a songwriter. Our song was better.
It's the same on throughout the whole part of that business. Is like when people bitch to me about, man, why is he doing that? Why are you doing? Like, there's no politics in taste.
Remember Harlan Howard?
Yeah.
Some guy was weird that he used to live at that Longhorn bar. Was it Long Branch or Longhorn down in Music Row?
Right down there.
Right off of Music Row.
Yeah.
Had his own seat with a placard on it, but we'd sit down there with him and he would drink. Some new guy was complaining about not getting any cuts, whatever. And he just kind of leaned up from his drink and said, "Nobody sent for you, kid." And I thought, hey man, I got nothing to complain about. Like, and we can get into that mode because, by the way, there's always somebody richer, smarter, and better looking. There's always somebody hotter. And if you happen to be that hottest person, we just said it, there's only one way to go but down. So I have become so okay with just like whatever the career has for me. I really don't worry about it anymore. We'll see how that works out. I'll let you know in 5 years.
Well, that's the thing is that's how you make it through.
Yeah.
That's how you make it to the next part. Like you said, Taylor Swift is dying. She probably is. Not dying. Like she's not dying. She's doing just fine. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but she's not happy.
But unless she's doing the same kind of work that we've all had to do as we weren't always 50 either.
No, I know.
We were going to be the next big thing. It's 3 different parts of our career.
Yeah.
And she's smart enough to where she'll do some.
She's probably doing some searching. Yeah.
She's doing some searching. Just like I went to a therapist and I was like, what about this? What about that? He goes, you're 42. This is what 42-year-olds think about. Like, you're not special, dude.
That's so funny. It's funny because after years, like I thought I was the guy, right? For 30 years, I thought I was the guy. Turns out I'm the guy behind the guy. I might even be the guy behind the guy behind the guy.
Right.
Whatever. But I'm allowed to do what I want for a living. I got to be home with my children when they were growing up. It's a lot of things. It's the best job I can think of to be. But nobody gets to be the best at any given time but one guy.
Right.
There's hundreds of songwriters in town. There used to be thousands. We should all be glad that we're doing this for a living because it's not an easy thing. And especially you turn 50, man, it's like, okay, I'm pretty proud of being able to survive in this. But you're only the hottest thing in town for a period of time, and there's only one of them.
Right.
Only one at a time.
Right. Even like think about like guys like Vince Gill. He'll never be the next big thing.
He's kind of really gracefully come into this thing where he is just legendary, playing with the Eagles. He seems really comfortable with himself. But I bet it wasn't right away.
I think that is called like relying on talent.
Well, he is that good. Yeah.
Hey man, let's take a break.
Okay.
And then let's come back and try and make each other cry.
All right.
Oh, that's why you wanted me to take a break.
Yeah, I can drink it.
This is the first time that I really did think we've never taken a break.